In the interview, I got asked the question, why didn't you pick Malaysia as one of the countries? It's a Muslim country. I was really honest with her. I go, I'm a living example of this fellowship. I picked the countries I knew my parents would be okay with. But yeah, maybe the next step would be that maybe I'll get an invitation for a conference in Malaysia and it won't be a big deal, you know, because I've gone and done America or whatever it is. Assalamualaikum, my name is Arfah Farooq. I am a Winston Churchill Fellow, Muslamic Makers co-founder, which is a Muslim in tech community, and I'm all things diversity in tech. So diversity in technology is extremely important because at the end of the day, all these products that are being built are being used a diverse user base. Now, if the people behind it that are building it aren't from a diverse background, then we're going to make a lot of errors. I've got an Alexa in my room, for example, and a lot of these virtual assistants, they're all female. Why is that? And then there's certain things that they might say which you're a bit like, oh, that's a bit questionable. And that's probably because the majority of the people behind it are male. Mate, like, ideal vision for me is basically I'm able to bring my passions around women, minorities, tech, diversity, to basically have a world where you feel like you can play a part because you're reflected back. A world where we feel that, oh yeah, I can go get a job at Google, because to be frank, until I met somebody who worked at Facebook or Google who was Muslim woman, etc., I never even dreamed about bothering to even apply for a job there. I struggled to find a role model in my own journey. I think how I discovered myself, I live in Newham, so there's a lot of Olympic stuff was happening, so I got involved in a lot of how young people can shape the area as it changes. I always say that was my card to freedom, but getting involved in the community and youth work was just kind of my way of having a life. Basically, through that I then just discovered that's just how I am, because then even when I did go to uni I was still involved in a gazillion different things. I often talk about this actually. I talk about the macro and the micro level of changes to make. So when I used to be at university, I was very, big change, protesting on the streets with the placard. Then I entered the real world, right? And you're just a bit like, okay, what difference did that even really make? And then when I started to do a lot of startup tech entrepreneurial stuff, it made me realise that actually it's the small things, and that's when I focus more on the micro. So it's always the micro interactions that can influence the world and that can change the world. And then with Muslamic Makers, it was all about actually how can we raise aspirations, how can we bring the community up with us. And actually, again, it's on a micro level. It's by doing events, inspiring people. It's by putting people under one room so they can meet or start this startup or whatever it is that they need to do. That is the thing that I find really fulfilling now. I really focus on the little things. That can be as simple as liking your friend's film on Facebook and sharing it on your network. And I'm trying to have good family relationships. Alhamdulillah, I do have very supportive parents that have helped me get me to where I am today. There's no denying when I wanted to do media and communication, there was a lot of question marks on it. I still went and did it. And I think that doing those things was a way of discovering who I am now, especially with the fellowship. It was a big deal for me. I didn't move away from university. It wasn't really seen as a done thing for a girl to go traveling on her own, even if it was for an opportunity or a fellowship. I think ultimately I built a lot of trust with my parents over the years, maybe by a lot of the time actually bending to their rules or whatever it is. It's not about like rebelling and going against the grain, etc. It's working with your family and not necessarily against them, working with your culture and not necessarily against it. Have that open dialogue, then it will only make your life easy in the long run. I think often, and it's definitely a thing that women do a lot, is that, oh, I just got lucky. Anytime I'm talking about my story, I always talk about, oh, I got lucky. Actually, there was a lot of hard work that went into it. And yeah, okay, that does obviously play a part, and God definitely has that I had to play in that. If you're not actually doing that first thing, then actually you're not going to get anywhere. And that can be in any part of your life, let that be careers, relationships, or whatever it is. You've got to make that effort. And you take that one step, and then that thing will come running to you if it's right for you. Hard work doesn't have to look like hard work. It doesn't have to be bags under your eyes and sleepless nights. I think especially in the old corporate world, it's like, oh, I have an 80-hour week. I'm such a hard worker. Mate, like, you sacrifice your family and your loved ones in the process of that. That's not a badge of honor to me. When you really care about something, you will just go at it and you will do all the things you can to amplify your message, let that be your business, your community, whatever it is. But I think you have to really care. I think when you really care about something, that's when you just automatically start working really hard. I think for me anyways, a lot of it has come out of personal experience, what I've had to go through, and if I could make it easier for the girl coming through, then being authentically myself and just putting things out there. Now, I do not have a big following on social media or anything. You don't know what role you have to play in a stranger's life, and I think that's how I see it. So like maybe only 50 people saw my video, but maybe for those 50 people, maybe there's that one person whose life has completely changed. And then for me, I feel like that's it. I've done my part, because that person might go on to change the world.